everybody. Who really runs the LA streets? I'm having this discussion today because I saw some goofy ass nigga online talking about all the coons in LA and how LA be cooning. And I take exception to that because LA is not a cooning city. But then when he tied the cooning to the gangbangers, what's going on with the gangbangers in LA and how they afraid to, how they only harm other black people, I had to be like, well, I can't get totally mad at what he's saying, but LA is not a coon city by any stretch. And y'all gonna want to come back tomorrow. Tomorrow's August 11th. Tomorrow is the 50-year anniversary, 6th-year anniversary, I'm sorry, of the Watts riots. LA has a long, black LA has a long history of standing up to white supremacy, a long history of creating our own economic systems from the Central Ave, from Central Ave to the Central Business District to the Sugar Hill area to Ladera Heights. We've always had a very strong and yet militant business class and street class. The 92 LA riots, message music, before the music industry came in and gave us gangster rap, we had message music, street knowledge. Always resistant. We've always stood up to the bullshit. And we've always stood up to everything else. But again, when I heard this guy's point of view, I said, damn, he do got a point. Based off, and that's just based on what we see on the internet these days. With all the huffing and puffing that goes on. The people that want to use the gang terminology, then they see people, whether it be academics or they see Adam 22 or one of those personalities, and it's all love. When they see DJ Vlad, it's all like these are the vultures right here, and they tend to, based on what we see online, I'm like, damn, he has a point. So what I want to do today is I'm going to talk about the real LA and the history of gangs in LA. Because the fact of the matter is, when it comes to gangs in LA, we are one of the last races in this city, the last race actually, to form gangs. There were Chinese gangs before there were black gangs. There were Japanese gangs before black gangs. There were most definitely white gangs before black gangs. And Latino gangs before black gangs. You'll start to see here that the black gang movement was initially started out as a resistance movement, not to absolve us from what we do, because we do have gangs. But when you look at the real history of LA, and we look at who really controls the drug trade in LA, who controls the underground market, whether it be the janky shoes and jeans like the Armenians do, their gangs, or the Chinese gangs controlling the fentanyl, or the Hells Angels controlling the weed, and the Hells Angels being the ones to put the Mexican mafia to work, and how the black gangs don't have that system of corruption that goes into the government like the other races do. And we're going to talk about today why it's overblown through music, and how the music industry has overblown this whole gang thing, the music industry and the movie industry with all these gangster movies, how they've overblown the shit to the point to where now these guys are the actual voice of LA. And if you've been watching this channel regularly, you know I got a problem with that. I got a problem with not all, they're not all ignorant, but as a group, I got a problem with these ignorant motherfuckers having the voice of LA. Because it groups us all into this stunted growth category, this arrested development category known as a gangster or a gangbanger out of LA. Because we know that everything that's gangster started, the rules were written by teenagers. The game was initially set up in LA for teenagers, not for niggas in their 50s. But people in their 50s and 60s are still holding on to something that was meant for people in their teens and 20s. When I was a kid, if you was in your 20s and you was banging, you was looked at as a retard. That's how I was when I was a kid. If you was in your 20s, especially your late 20s, if you was banging and rapping and you was 30, you were a fucking retard. If you were rapping and banging at 30, you were a fucking retard. And I'm talking about as recently as 1995, nigga. Somehow that flipped. So let's break it down and let's talk about this. Because most, and before I get all the way into it, chat room, y'all might want to calm down because if you ain't from LA, I can promise you, you don't know shit. Okay? Most niggas in LA don't know this history I'm about to teach. If you ain't from here, I promise you, you don't know a motherfucking thing, right? Hold on. There we go. You good, Rocky? You good? All right, Rocky good. We good. If you from LA, I can tell you right now, you don't know what the fuck you talking about. So just sit back, relax, have a good time, and I'm going to put you up on some information. And everything that I put you up on is going to be something that you can look further for more education. This is an educated discussion that we're having. So I was watching this channel I generally don't like, but I subscribe to people I don't really like their channels because it just see what they're talking about. And he played this, and we played this. I use this channel sometime. He played this other video that I saw because that was floating around the internet, and this video has caused a lot of discussion on the internet lately. And let's watch this. So it was started with this weird looking nigga right here.
Wish.
And I found this on this Poetic Flacco page. I generally don't watch his channel, but he does good at what he does. He's kind of weird to me also. That guy. All them cats at No Jumper are a little bit weird to me. But I want you to watch this.
I mean, he cooking.
The most self-hating, wish sellout blacks in America are in Los Angeles, California. This is a fact. But when you redirect the conversation to the black gangs, oh man, they take it to a whole nother level. Like they take the to the next level.
Oh, you can stop the video right here.
And that's so not true when it comes to LA and Coonan. Come south of the 10 to say that shit. Come to Leimert Park. That's so not true. But the problem is, LA as a city, it gets everybody else's coons. Let me give you an example. They talk about all the sexual deviancy in LA, right? Well, that stuff is started by people like Clive Davis and those record executives that are not from LA. And it goes down through weirdos like Diddy, who's not from LA. You know, everyone's heard about the Jamie Foxx parties, not from LA. Lee Daniels, not from LA. You never heard about John Singleton doing no weird shit. He from LA. You never hear about Ice Cube doing no weird shit. It's always these people who aren't from here that move here and y'all be weird as fuck, and y'all think since y'all out here, this is the time to go be the hoe that you wanted to be down south or in the East Coast or in the Midwest or in the upper Northeast or in Nigeria or in Pakistan or wherever the fuck you come from. You come here and figure I'm gonna let loose and be fun and fancy free. That's the problem we have to deal with in LA. All you fucking weirdos who aren't from here going up there in Hollywood doing weird shit. And then that jacket getting left on LA. No, in the hell it ain't. We don't like that shit. That's why, like, real LA niggas like me, we don't get invited to the certain industry parties. They know, oh, that nigga from here? Oh yeah. We'll invite that nigga when we watching the basketball. We'll invite the one when we having an NBA finals party or a fight party but if they have one of their parties, they know good and the hell well not to invite a real LA nigga. Those are all a whole bunch of fucking freaks who aren't from here. We get all you fucking freaks from around the country. And the same thing with a lot of these gangster shit. It's a lot of y'all who ain't from here who trying to come and act tough. These gang. So when it comes to all that cooning, all these niggas talking about getting with a white girl, no the fuck we don't. If you grew up in LA, you wanted a girl from Westchester High, you wanted one from Dorsey, you wanted one from Inglewood High, you wanted one from Crenshaw High. You didn't necessarily want a chick from Locke, because them Locke chicks is rough. But you wanted a chick from one of them schools. We didn't give a fuck about going to no goddamn white girl. Matter of fact, if you brought a white girl around us, you was looked at as weird. I mean, let me give you a real story. One of my homeboys who left LA, moved up to Seattle and got married to a white girl, we all knew he was gonna marry a white girl. He was always known as the one that was gonna get with the white girl. So I had a shindig at my house a couple weeks ago, and he came through. And the homegirls that came through, because I had like 15 of my homegirls here and like 5 of my homeboys. And so, but one of the homegirls from back in the day, you know, she came over, she was like, is he still with them white girls? Like, he's a running joke. But we all from South Central. We all from Inglewood. We all from that part of LA. So the nigga that got with the white girl to this day is still looked at, man, we love this nigga, but he be with them white girls. That's how we get down. So this weird looking nigga right here is just as bad as the gangsters in LA.
Dissertation would be
this guy right here. If you ask me, he's no better. He's no better than the people that he's talking about, the quote unquote gangsters, because he still goes down to No Jumper. You couldn't pay me to go to No Jumper. Hell no. You could not pay me to go to No Jumper. Now, they could pay me to do a remote call in to No Jumper from right here where I'm sitting in my studio. Oh yeah, I'll do the goddamn. I'll zoom in if y'all pay me, but it's no way in hell you could pay me to go do. If you go anybody at No Jumper is thirsty, flat out. Whether they're on the gang side or the civil side. If you go to that obvious monkey trap, you're fucking thirsty. So just by proximity, just by being someone that goes to No Jumper, you have no right to talk about anything that goes on here. That's a goofy ass show, and anybody on that show is fucking goofy. Civilian or non-civilian, you're goofy. So this guy, I don't even like this weird looking nigga even talking about LA. Because he's just as goofy. But he still had a point right here when you hear this dude talk.
in himself.
Don't believe me? Well, look at this.
I'm in cell like 4 at the time. So, I see I'm banging on everything.
Thank you very much.
It's regular that a nigga I'ma bang on everything black that I see.
Well, that's just one person. Just because one person says that doesn't.
And it's a lot of people that do, that are like, they may not say it, but the sad fact is, although most may not say that, that's true. He represents a lot of these cats. And that, look, I could defend my city all day, but defending my city don't include lying about my city. I never lied to defend LA. I'm only going to come to you guys with facts. And fact is, this is true. How is this true? We've been dealing with soft gentrification in LA, with white folks moving in slowly starting about 2012, 13 is when they started trickling in. So we're about a decade, and we're hard gentrification since the pandemic, 2020. So we're 5 years into hard gentrification, 12 years into soft gentrification with white folks coming in, and about 30 years into gentrification by Mexican. Generally, blacks and Mexicans keep our distance in LA. We don't really intermingle. You know what I mean? So when they say blacks are scared of Mexicans in LA, like, we really don't even fuck with each other like that. There's not an issue of being scared. We could be on a block 50-50 blacks and Mexicans and not know none of our Mexican neighbors' names. That's just fact. But still, with the gentrification, I ain't seen not one of these niggas. And now you starting to get people like from India moving into parts of the hood. India, yeah. Them goddamn gas station motherfuckers. And you don't see these dudes say nothing to these white girls walking their dogs. These white boys jogging, because white folks got a jog. They got a jog. They get the jog free and fancy on the same street that niggas are still banging on. And they will jog their white asses on down and won't nothing get said to them. This is sad.
Mean that, well, look at this.
But what about the Serenos? They're pretty tough, aren't they?
Yeah, we fuck with our Mexicans though. Hell yeah. Like, we used to beef with the Mexicans, but they cool with us. Like, you know, they good people.
What about the Aryan Brotherhood?
They cool. They do tattoos and sometimes, so we be in there with them.
Like, that is really.
That nigga talked about, and I hear a lot of black folks saying we cool with the Mexicans. They cool, and that's cool. And I get it. And they are cool. There really is no like standing beef. Like, what I know, I'm not in the gang life, but what I notice is like the Mexican gangs be over here, the black gangs be over there. It's not like, and they be in the same neighborhoods, but it's not like they really interact. Like, oftentimes you can walk past Mexicans and just not even see the motherfuckers, even though there's 20 of them sitting right there. You just don't pay attention to them. That's true too. But on the other side, my issue with that is this. The cats that used to be on the streets, those are the ones that get the construction jobs. Those are the ones that are into painting, that are into those manual labor type jobs, that when it comes to that job site, gang or no gang, they don't fuck with you niggas. I'm not in the running for one of these positions that I have to get hired by a Mexican supervisor. I pulled myself out of that when I saw the game at my last job. I saw how that the lay of the land was looking. I was like, if I ever leave this job, I probably won't have another one lined up for me. So I got to figure out how to work on my own, because I was watching the landscape unfold right in front of me. These motherfuckers ain't going to hire me. And if they do, I'm going to have to deal with harassment. Black people around this city right now are dealing with harassment because people are not speaking in English at the job, saying all kind of slick shit. Oh, James came in 2 minutes late to work, boss. And James having to get written up by their Latino supervisor because they came in 2 minutes late because their Latino coworker told them. This is what's real. I do anti-racism training out here, folks. I see what's going on. And I don't like the way black folks are turning a blind eye to it. I finally got my website back up. breakthroughas.org, showing you a lot of the stuff that I do when I'm not on the internet. I'm really out here in these streets. I'm in these corporations. I'm doing anti-black racism training because I'm seeing the dynamics, and it's bad. These companies out here getting sued left to right because the racism is extreme. You think they really want to hire me? But you got a question. Do you hire me and help mitigate the racism? Or do you deal with the lawsuits that are coming? This shit's real right now. And black folks are still acting like that it's not. But let's keep going.
How they are. I'll never forget when I first got out here whipping the first.
Listen to this story right here is a lie. I'm gonna tell you right now, this coon right here lying like a motherfucker right here. But let's listen to this lying ass story. Listen up.
Is really how they are. I'll never forget when I first got out here whipping the first few days. Obviously, I'm curious about LA because I don't know about LA. Therefore, I'm gonna want to take a walk. And in the midst of taking this walk, I go to a park where it's hundreds of people. And while I'm at this park walking through it, a black SUV pulls up to the side of me talking about where you from. And it's full of Now, of course, I told them I'm from out of state, and they drove off. But afterwards, I thought about it like, damn, I'm the only black person out here. Why me? It's all of these Mexicans, all of these white folks, and you want to bang on me. That's just how they are.
That nigga's look, this nigga's a coon. That didn't. I can promise y'all that didn't happen. Because first off, it ain't no parks like that where Mexicans and white people are chilling. White people don't like being around Mexicans. There's no park where you're going to see. Well, I'll take that back. They're a couple. There are a couple. Let me show you why he's lying though. Let me pull a map up. Let me pull the map up. First off, it ain't no goddamn parks with Mexicans and white people chilling like that all across this motherfucking city. Promise you that. Only place you may see that maybe is up here in Silver Lake. I mean, Westlake. Echo Park, I'm right. Not Westlake, that's all Mexican. You might, this is still Mexican, you might have a couple white folks here at Echo Park Lake with Mexicans. You might have a couple here. But let me tell you something. It ain't no black people over here. You're not going to see nobody black and gangbanging up here saying, where you from? I've been living in this city 44 years. I'm 44 years old now. And I've only been asked one time in my black ass life, where are you from? One time in my motherfucking life have I been asked, where are you from? That shit is so not goddamn true. And when I got asked where I was from, nigga, that shit was right here in goddamn 1990. Nigga, I was walking home. I lived on this block. I never went down Rodeo Lane, and my dog Rex got out the backyard, and I chased Rex down to about right here. This gate didn't exist back then. To about right here. And right when I chased Rex down, Dorsey High School was letting out of school here at Dorsey, and they was just letting out of school. So one of them goofy ass niggas that went to Dorsey probably lived back up here in the jungles because he was walking that way. All the kids that went to Dorsey but lived in the jungles walked that way. And that nigga said, hey, yo, blood, where you from? Because I had on some white and blue Reebok Emmitt Smith number 22 shoes. Emmitt Smith was my favorite player back then, and I had on some Emmitt Smiths. And this motherfucker said, "Where are you from?" And that was the only goddamn time in my life I've ever been asked where I'm from in this city. And I only be in the hood. I only go to the white folks side of town for business. Outside of that, I be in the hood all the time. South Central LA. All the buildings I manage are in the hood. I got a motherfucking apartment I manage way the fuck over here on the east side. I'm always in South Central. I'm always in South Central. And there's no area where you see white people and Mexicans hanging out like that with black folks coming around. All the black folks that bang, the few that's left in LA, is all here south of the 10. This is where the black folks are that bang in LA, in this area right here. And there's not one area, not one park, even though white folks are gentrifying LA, even though they're coming into Inglewood, they don't leave a fucking house. When this shit going on, when a Taste of Soul happens next month, in October, when they had a Taste of Soul right here, you got white folks moving in all through this area. But I tell you this, when a Taste of Soul happen, it's going to be 1 million niggas here on Crenshaw. And you won't see no goddamn white folks out here. None. Why? Because we don't mingle in LA. LA is a very segregated, separatist city. So even when they move into your neighborhood, they don't fucking mingle with you. They don't mingle with Mexicans. They don't mingle with Asians. The white folks in LA are very ethnocentric. Where you gonna see white folks out at? This is where you'll see white people out at in LA. You don't see them out much. But when you're gonna see them out, they're gonna be over here west of the 405 freeway. This is where the white folks is out at. And you'll see at the beach, you'll see Mexicans too, because there's so many goddamn Mexicans here. And you'll see other races that kind of come down to a white area. But you only gonna really see white folks out over here. Santa Monica, up as you get up into here, up into the Palisades, in the Malibu, Sawtell, Brentwood. This is where white folks mingle over here. You're going to see more goddamn Asians on Rodeo Drive and Indians because they're the ones that got all the goddamn money than white folks these days. So there's nowhere you're going to really go. They'll be out here in the valley, but they ain't going to be in the part. White people don't really go out like that. If it's a place that's dominated by another group of people, you're not going to see white people out in that. Them motherfuckers is segregated ass people, boy, I tell you. No, white folks gonna say, well, it's a little sketchy. That area's a little sketch. That's what they're gonna say. I'm not gonna go there because it's sketch. Yeah, it's too sketchy. And that's all they gotta say. They ain't gotta say no, they ain't gotta say black, they ain't gotta say Mexican, they ain't gotta say Asians. All they have to say is, it's a little sketch. And they're not going. So he lying his motherfucking ass off. He just making that shit up. And that's what I don't like. Don't lie to kick it. That's a term. That's another LA term. Kendrick had a song on To Pimp a Butterfly. You ain't gotta lie to kick it. You ain't gotta lie to kick it. You ain't gotta try so hard. Don't lie to kick it. And then let's go into what he had Charleston White, because he did a good job editing this video. Even though the Flacco dude is weird, he did a good job. He does a good job with his videos.
In neighborhood, bro, you got to give them people's a check. This is how they operate. These people are lunatics.
No, we do not operate on the people who operate on a check-in choose to operate on a check-in. Kobe Bryant never checked in. Common, he's a rapper. When he comes to LA, I guarantee goddamn to you, Common ain't checking in. Niggas ain't checking in unless they choose to go be a part of that environment. You checking in when you choose to be out in certain areas, in certain streets, around certain crowds. Ain't no grown-ass man checking in the shit out here. Now listen to this corny-ass nigga right here.
California niggas start look like, not California, the LA talking that gang talk. These is more drama-filled, emotionally responsive. These got traits. We used to idolize them. Man, if we would have knew these was like this here, nigga, we would have never got down there.
That's the part right there that always tripped me out about being from LA. We didn't teach you niggas to idolize that. Why didn't y'all idolize Ice Cube? Calling white girls cave bitch. Why didn't y'all idolize that? Why didn't you idolize the part of Tupac that stood up to the system? It's a lot of shit you could have idolized. You could have idolized NWA, songs like NWA Dope Man, where if these drugs kill my family, I'm going to get you. It's a lot you could have idolized out of LA. You could have idolized the R&B singing out of LA. You could have idolized the jazz coming out of LA. It's a lot of shit you could have idolized. You could have idolized LA riots. We're not going to take this shit, so we'll burn this bitch down. It's a lot we gave you niggas to idolize. For all you corny ass niggas like Charleston right around the country, if you chose to idolize a gangster part, it's time that we all grow up and accept it that you were the loser. It was the loser side of LA speaking to the loser side in you. So all you New York niggas that be talking about LA gang banging, that's what you was attracted to, that's your loser side. Okay? Let's be very clear. We gave you message music. We gave you, hell, we the originators of Miami Bass, Rodney O and Joe Cooley. We gave you party music. We gave you supersonic, dude, just straight up party booty shaking music. We gave you that. Nigga. We gave you a lot of beautiful shit out of LA. So if you were attracted to the gangster shit, that's the loser in you. I'm from South Central, and I always thought gangbanging was stupid. I asked my dad, I was like, hold on, they don't, what? Nigga, I'll never forget. I'm going to tell y'all exactly how it went down. I was raised over here in BPS's hood, right? I was raised right over here in BPS hood, right here. And I was raised right here. Looks beautiful now, but I had 3 drive-bys. Hey, somebody fuck Miss Dorothy's house up. I had 4 drive-bys on my front house by the time I was 8. Unless you had 4, my bedroom windows right here in the front. Unless you've been waking up by drive-bys hitting your bedroom window, 4 of them motherfuckers by the time you were 8, I don't want to hear shit about this neighborhood looks beautiful. I had a crip that lived in this house next to me, and they was always coming to light this nigga's house up, and they hitting our fucking house instead. So unless you grew up like that, shut the fuck up with this neighborhood looks beautiful bullshit. But it's going through gentrification right now, so it looks a little different. We was raised there, and there were these apartments across the street. And across the street, these trees right here weren't there. Well, some of those trees. Those trees, for the most part, weren't there. These are newer trees. Well, anyway, it was always drug dealing going on across the street right here. Always drugs right in this apartment right here. It was a dude that stayed. The niggas was all day, in and out, 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 in and out. And then BPS was all through here. They was all up in the rodeo lanes. And they was in the jungles. And I used to come down to the jungles a lot. My uncle said up here, this is the jungles, the infamous jungles. Looks beautiful, but yeah, try it. So I remember asking my dad. There was always shooting and shit going on, and when they would shoot some goddamn body, whoever the fuck was shooting in the jungles, it seemed like all the time they would try to get away and dip down our block. So we be in the house chilling. We hear AKs and Tech 9s. And why the fuck, as a 10-year-old, did I know the difference between an AK-47 and a Tech 9? And I didn't have any guns around me, but I knew how they sounded. And they'd always leave coming down our block. And then the fire department was right here on the corner. So all times of night growing up as a kid, I had to listen to these motherfuckers going to go get somebody that just got shot. All before the age of 10. Because the riots happened when I was 10 and shit started to calm down a little bit after the riots. But before the riots, this shit was crazy. And I asked my dad, well, Pops, who wins the gang fights? My dad said, don't neither of these niggas win. They both lose. And then I was like, so they say this is their block. Is this their block? Because there's a stop sign right here. BPS used to always tag on this stop sign right here. They'll put can't, then stop BPS. Or BPS's hood. BPS would always write some shit on the stop sign. And I asked my dad was like, look, man, these motherfuckers, because that's when Ice Cube came out with Summer Vacation, when he said that line, dying for a street that they never heard of. And I asked my dad, I was like, so he was like, they don't even own they shit where they live. So I was like, Pops, you like they don't own, they actually rent? And my dad broke down the difference between ownership and renting. I didn't know the difference between ownership and renting. I wasn't even 10 years old yet. So my dad gave me a lesson on ownership versus renting using the gang analogy. Because I used to like digging holes in my backyard. We had peach trees, apricot trees, plum trees. We had 2 plum trees, a peach tree, apricot tree, all that in the backyard. And I used to like digging ditches. And my dad was like, see them ditches you digging? You can't dig them ditches if you rent. And all the niggas you see banging, them niggas rent. And I was like, man, hell nah. You mean to tell me these niggas is dying over this block and they can't dig holes in their backyard? Matter of fact, these niggas ain't even got a backyard? Oh, hell no. I never had to worry about banging after that. Hell no. Both sides of the hood can kiss my ass. So that's why like people like Charleston White, you gotta own your shit. If that's the part of LA culture that you gravitated towards, that's because there was some loser inside of you that was attracted to the loser side of what goes on out there in them streets. It's a lot you could have been attracted to. That was your choice. But let's listen to that part again.
Many California niggas start look like, not California, the LA talking that gang talk. These is more drama-filled, emotionally responsive. These got traits. We used to idolize them. Man, if we would have knew this was like this here, nigga, we would have never got down there. Because gang banging is a bunch of boys.
See, another area that he has to look at. See, Oakland never got in the gang side of things. Oakland never did Crips and Bloods. Them Oakland niggas say, that's why I take it back to personal responsibility. Any of you Texas niggas, any of you Arkansas or New York niggas or whoever got into Crippin' and Blooding, y'all gotta own that. Cause Oakland is right here in California. And that shit did not fly on the streets of Oakland. It wasn't no going to Oakland and setting up a blood chapter or a Crip chapter. Them Oakland niggas ran them motherfuckers off the block. So if you was in Seattle or them other areas, you niggas just was weak. That's why I'm tired of people blaming LA. If y'all got into that shit, it's because y'all was weak. Own it. You was just as weak as these niggas you mad at. You was just as weak as the people you blaming. One finger point, three coming right back at you. Oakland niggas didn't fall for the bullshit. Oakland niggas said, yeah, we got our problems. We got our pimping, we got our hustling, we got our banging. But you niggas ain't gonna teach us how to bang. That's what Oakland told LA niggas. So stop it. Stop it. If you got an issue with LA, look in the fucking mirror. And go talk to them niggas in Oakland and you ask them why they were so strong and you weren't. LA niggas wasn't taking cues from y'all on how to bang or do anything. Matter of fact, we don't even know you niggas exist until we get to the family reunion. If we gonna tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. The moon don't bark at the dog. LA street politics was developed out of street politics of LA. And we about to break that part down as soon as I'm done with this Charleston White part.
A bunch of boys. I say I love you. But when you do something wrong, I'm going to get the family to hurt you. What family they do that in? You want to teach your brother something, so we finna punch on you to teach you. Nah, nigga, if we would have known these LA niggas were really lame, hide behind that red and blue in that street that was popular, homie, we wouldn't got that kind of respect.
Charleston White, if you was like that, you would have seen that. If you real, whatever you do, if you real at it, you can see the bullshit. Like me, I'm very spiritual. Y'all know, outside of the street, outside of the talking shit and the information, I'm very spiritual. And I also understand knowledge. I know when I'm talking to somebody who's a charlatan, fake spiritual. I know when I'm talking to you, like, oh, that nigga's a charlatan. Because since I am the real, I know the real. If I'm talking music, I know if I'm talking to somebody who understands music and somebody who's just bullshitting. It's some people who just lie to kick it. Some people who just talk because they want to be part of the conversation. You know the difference between somebody who's talking just to be part of the conversation and those who actually have something to add to the conversation. And whatever it is you do, all of you niggas out there listening to me right now are good at something, great at something, and you know the difference between those who know what they're talking about and have something to add to the conversation and those who just want to talk to be heard. And if you don't know the difference between the two, that means you should probably just stay quiet because you don't know enough to talk about whatever it is you're talking about. Like, I know when I'm around certain environments, I'm the quietest nigga out there. Shit, you catch certain conversations. If the conversation is not in my wheelhouse, I shut the hell up. Or if it is a music conversation, but I was at Kenneth Croucher's show this past weekend, and I was listening to some other musicians that was in there talking. You know what I was doing when I was listening to those experts at their instrument? Because that drummer was better than I ever was as a drummer. And that bass player was better on the bass than I ever was as a musician. So when I heard that drummer and that bass player talking, When I was in the green room at the show, Tavis Smiley and Dr. Cornell West was at that show. I didn't run up and take a picture because I still have a thing with I probably should take more pictures. I feel weird asking for pictures. I still do. But when I heard Tavis Smiley and Dr. Cornell West talking, I just shut the fuck up. Cornell West ran for president. I don't agree with everything Cornell West did, but Cornell West got a lot of games that I don't have. So when I heard Tavis Smiley and Cornell West talking, this ain't about me right now. It's about knowing when you're around people that got information to shut the fuck up and let them talk. But you get people like this who just run their goddamn mouth, and those be the ones that'll go around and be susceptible to shit like that. It's the reason why Oakland niggas didn't fall. You said let Jim Jones tell it. He put Wayne on Bloods. No, I know. My man Term did that. I know Term. I remember hearing the story back in 2004 or 5 when it happened. When Lil Wayne got put on. My man Term. But let's talk about LA gang culture. See, the dude is somewhat right when they talking about, because LA gang culture, it was born. That's why I like with that last guy that I played the video on when he's talking about he don't say nothing to other races. The true Crips, the true LA gangs, the Slossons, the businessmen, they were all created out of resistance. Now, y'all ready for me to break down who the real gangs are in LA and where that comes from? Let's go. Make sure y'all hit the share button right now. Make sure y'all hit the like button. You about to get some information that you ain't heard about LA and why the LA gang culture exists, okay? I can guarantee you never heard it the way I'm about to give it to you. What we got to realize is this. The black LA gang is a resistance movement because the city of Los Angeles is a gangster city. And gangs in LA existed long before black people started having them. Not just white gangs. Asian gangs, police gangs, Latino gangs. Well, the LA Latinos started around the same time on different sides of the city. The LA gang life is a resistance movement to being bullied. To being bullied. The Mason-Dixon line in LA back then was Alameda Boulevard. The blacks were on this side, on the west side of Alameda, in the Jordan Downs, and the white folks were on the right side, in Linwood. And it was the white gangs that pushed blacks into gangs in these areas as a resistance movement to white aggression. Only for the war on drugs to basically decimate the original gangster class that was about resistance, that was about standing up. Because the original gangster class in LA, the Slossons, the businessmen, they joined the Black Panthers after the LA riots. And stay tuned tomorrow We're going to do a celebration of the Watts riots. Tomorrow we're going to do a 60-year celebration of the Watts riots here on the channel. But the gangs were a resistance movement. But it's not just white and black gangs. Let's go deeper into the different style of gangs that predate the black gangs in LA. It starts with, in the early 1900s, the surfer gangs. The surfer gangs all made sure to keep black, because when we're dealing with black LA, we got to understand this. Before black people got grouped into South Central, black LA built the beaches. And what we now know as Los Angeles International Airport used to be a black neighborhood in the 19 teens, late 1800s. LAX was built in 1920. I think it opened in 1923, somewhere around there. But in the 1900s, 1800s, LAX was a black neighborhood, and so were the beaches. White America did not know how to handle the sand, and beach was considered undesirable land. Because if you look at this area right here, you see the Bologna wetlands right here? This area is still wetlands. Well, if you know the topography of LA, all of LA was a swamp up until La Cienega Boulevard. Press the number 1 if you heard of the street La Cienega Boulevard. Well, La Cienega in Spanish is known as the swamp. That's what La Cienega means, the swamp. All of LA in the late 1800s, west of La Cienega, was swampland. Just like the Bologna wetlands. And this area right here where you see the Runway Plaza, this used to be the Howard Hughes airport, and this is where Howard Hughes built the Spruce Goose. If you ever heard of the Spruce Goose, if you ever heard of Howard Hughes and his airlines, this is where he built a lot of that stuff. But before that, before Howard Hughes, before LAX, this was all swamp, and this was all LA. That's why when you hear the Bruce's Beach story, Bruce's Beach is way down the line. They were just some of the last black people to own this land. All this was black in the late 1800s. The Bruce's Beach story was just the last black people. You also had El Segundo Beach, where you were going to get a black Coney Island that was going to be built here in 1921, but the white residences of El Segundo burned it down. You also have a reparations thing that's active right now at the Viceroy Hotel. That black people, this black-owned hotel was taken through eminent domain. This was a black-owned resort that now sits the Viceroy Hotel, which was taken from black people by eminent domain. The reason why this all happened was because all of this was black land, and the original white gangs in California, in LA, were the gangs that were set up to move black people off of the land that we built up along the beaches of Los Angeles, California. So when you're looking at beach towns from Santa Monica all the way to Hermosa, you're dealing with areas that black people built up because this was the undesirable land during the late 1800s when we lived here. They always want to limit us just to the Central Avenue district. Yes, Central Avenue, that was the second home of black America. The first home of black America in LA was downtown and the beach areas. So white aggression from white gangs during the 19 teens and the 1920s, from white gangs, 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 pushed black people, the ones who remained, into this area over here, was now known as South Central LA. Let's start out with that. Then, when you get to the 1940s, you're now dealing with second and third generation white gangs who are now within the police department, and they develop gangs and white biker clubs like the Galloping Goose. The Galloping Goose gang was a gang that was in LA. And do you know the gang that Drake employs for his security when he's in Canada? The gang that was associated with Drake when they beat up Rick Ross at that concert in Vancouver was none other than the Hells Angels. Do you know the Hells Angels, the most notorious white gang in America behind the KKK, was started right here in California, out there in Fontana, and then quickly spread to LA. You cannot talk about LA gangs without talking about the Hells Angels, because they still killing people today. The marijuana trade, Hells Angels. The Mexican Mafia are basically the bitches of the Hells Angels. It's the white gangs that put the Mexican Mafia up to send orders down to the Mexican gangs to target black people. They are the ones, the Mexican gangs are the ones that are the hoes to the white boys. The Asian gangs, they're hoes to the white boys. The white boys uses these other races of gangs to put hell on black America. They also started here in Southern California. I know the Mongols most definitely are the Mexican biker gang that beef with the Hells Angels. But let me tell y'all, do y'all know the main reason why the Mongols, a Mexican gang, beefs with the Hells Angels? They primarily beef with the Hells Angels because they couldn't be Hells Angels. Can we tell the whole fucking truth and the whole goddamn truth? The Mongols were made because the Hells Angels was racist as fuck, didn't want no Mexicans in their shit, and so the Mongols were formed. The Mongols were formed because they were jealous and mad that they couldn't be Hells Angels. Now they go at each other now. They still go at each other. But if the Hells Angels sat down right now and said, Mongols, we accept you as our equals, I can almost guarantee you it won't be no Mongols versus Hells Angels beef. The Mongols just want to be Hells Angels, and that's why they mad, because the white boys won't let them. Can we tell the whole truth? But this is the primary gang in LA, in California. These Hells Angels. They are behind all that gang shit in the jails. They be behind the drug trade on the streets. And I've heard this from LAPD officers. I've told y'all this story before. Somebody I know that's retired now, but used to be very high up in the LAPD, said when the off-duty LAPD biker units go through Ventura County, go through Santa Barbara County, they got to get permission from the Hells Angels. I'm talking about off-duty cops got to get permission from the Hells Angels to ride their bikes through Santa Barbara. The gun trade, Hells Angels. All the people going around talking something, oh, the blacks are afraid of the Mexicans. The Mexicans are afraid of the blacks. Everybody bow down to the Hells Angels and to the white gangs. Because these Hells Angels, they all up in the LAPD and the sheriff department. And these are the ones that set off a lot of those gangs within the police department. I'm tired of y'all talking about LA gangs and the gang life in LA and excluding the biggest boys on the fucking block with the most goddamn control. The black gangs are a response to this environment. Remember this, people. In order to survive in an environment, you have to adapt to the environment. If the environment is gangster ridden and gangsters all around, then guess what? If gangs are all around and gangs abound, gangs are going to be the way of the city, the way of the environment. And the LA environment is very gangster oriented. This is a gangster environment. LA would not allow the mafia to come. It's the reason why the mafia doesn't exist here the way it does in your city. It's the reason why the mob don't exist here. You saw Gilbert Arenas got with some Israeli mob members and they took them niggas out. LA's a gangster city. But guess what? It don't stop there. It don't stop there. The Asians got gangs all in LA. When you go back to the 1940s, before the black gangs in LA, the World War II times, you had the Japanese American gangs here in Gardena, all up and down Crenshaw, Boyle Heights, especially the Crenshaw district. Let's go back to the map. When South Central, when Black LA started to move to the Crenshaw district, over here, where I told you about where I was raised. I told y'all the story before. There were a lot of still people from Okinawa, Japan, in this area. There were a lot of, before we moved here back in the 60s, there were a lot of Asian gangs in this area in the 50s, in the 60s, really in the 50s. And when we moved in over here, it was mostly Asians and blacks. And right here was an lady named Dorothy Kawai. That was my neighbor, Dorothy. She was from Okinawa. And this was George. He was from Okinawa. While all that shooting was going on, these two Okinawans stayed in the neighborhood. And every Friday, George would walk down. He owned a flower shop. And every Friday, you would see him at about 7 p.m. Pacific time walking down and delivering flowers to Dorothy, to my mom, and to Miss Alice next door. This was Miss Alice. After that gangster nigga moved out, Miss Alice moved in, an old lady. And George, our Okinawan neighbor, used to deliver us flowers every Friday from 1986 to 1998 when we moved. We moved in this motherfucker in 86, moved out like in 96, 97, sometime around there. Every Friday for those years we lived there, George brought us flowers. Well, there was a deal that happened. There was a deal that was going on. In the 80s, you had a lot of black people moving into this area. And the people from Japan who were here for a long time, they had all come up together and said, we're only going to sell to black people. Because in the 80s, you had Mexicans moving to LA too. So a lot of the older Japanese had a kinship with black people because during World War II, there were black people that actually came over and house sat for some of these people from Japan. When they had to go to internment camp, it was black people in the Crenshaw district, in Leimert Park. It was black people that held down a lot of the Japanese when they got sent to internment camp during World War II. So the older Japanese and the black people had somewhat of a partnership. So when a lot of them got their money from reparations from World War II, that's when they started selling their homes a lot and then moving out into the city of industry. A lot of the Japanese folks started moving like out here in this area when they got their reparations from World War II. Or they moved up in the Carthay Circle where black folks lived. There was a kinship between black LA and black Japan. And so same thing over here, in this area in Carthay Square, where you got these big ass houses, a lot of country club right here. A lot of your Japanese either moved, the ones that had big money, moved over in this area, and they still kept this area. And there's still a lot of Japanese over there in this area today. That's one story. The other story is during that time that the Japanese dominated Arlington Heights, Leimert Park, what's now known as the Crenshaw District, they also had gang problems too. That's the part they don't tell you. It was gangs called the Shoguns. I got Shogun here in the chat room. Gangs called the Shoguns and the Black Wands. And they also, when they saw what black folks was doing with lowriders, they started dressing like us and talking like us. And during the 50s and the 60s, Crenshaw District, Leimert Park, that whole area was full of Japanese gangs. There were no black gangs in those areas in the Crenshaw District at that time. And you could look up the Shoguns. These were gangs that existed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s from people of Japanese descent. And then you could go in to the Chinese gangs, the Hua Qing and the Hop Sing. They were up here in Chinatown. And do you also know that during the 50s, when the Chinese were catching hell, black people moved into Chinatown, had a successful business district in Chinatown, only for the Asian gangs, along with the LAPD, the Chinese gangs, along with the LAPD, pushed out a lot of these black businesses that was in this area in the 1940s. This was a traditional Asian area, Chinese area, but during World War II, when the Japanese were taking when the Japanese were taking a lot of hell, you know, white folks don't discriminate. Japanese, Chinese, it's the same to white folks. So when a lot of these Chinese-owned businesses shut down during that time, it was black folks that came in and opened up businesses. And all up and down Spring Street during the time that, because we were so successful down here on Central Ave, we had to expand northward. Because you see, Central Avenue was right here. Central Avenue is right here. And I'm the one to talk to you about LA history because, hell, my goddamn, I don't want to say goddamn, but my grandparents met at Jefferson High School. That's how LA I am. Y'all see Thomas Jefferson High School? During that time, my grandparents, my mama's parents, they met right here as classmates in Jefferson High, at Jefferson High School. And on my father's side, my grandfather attended Jefferson, because he's older than my other grandparents. He attended Jefferson 10 years prior to my other grandparents meeting here at Jefferson High School. That's how LA I am. So some of these stories you're not going to find online. Some of these stories are passed down because my family's been in this city for almost 100 fucking years, all right? So we had a thriving business district all throughout here, the Dunbar Hotel, all up and down Central Avenue. We had a thriving business district. So when the Japanese internment came here in this Japanese part, Little Japan, and in Chinatown, when they started to go up under getting their haze and getting their wake up call, we moved into these areas and created successful businesses. Only to when time came back and these Chinese folks started coming back, it was their gangs in conjunction with the LAPD that pushed black people out back down here. Mind you, at the time, there's still no notable black gang presence in LA. You got Japanese gangs over here to the west. You got Chinese gangs to the north. You got white gangs along the beach. And over here in Compton at that time, you still got white folks still in Compton. So black people, for the most part, surrounded in this area right here. Asian gangs to the north, white gangs to the south, Latino gangs here in East LA, and more white gangs over here in Inglewood and Hawthorne. Mind you, during that time, Hawthorne was a sundown town. Hawthorne and Inglewood were both sundown towns until the late 70s. I know this because my mom told me, okay? Not because I read it in Google. It's because my mother told me. And my father was a lowrider. My dad had a 71 Riviera. That was his lowriding car. And Pop said, you could not bring that 71 Riviera in 1971 to Hawthorne, California. It was a sundown town. Only black people over there worked at Jack Northrop. This is now SpaceX. But before this was SpaceX, this was Northrop. And it was a black man that worked in this Northrop facility right here that discovered hydraulics. Because this is where the B-52 bomber was built. This is where a lot of your stuff, a lot of your aircraft for the military during World War II was built here in Vietnam. And there was a black man that worked at this factory that took the hydraulics off of airplane spoilers and put them on cars. And that's where you got the from a black man that worked here when it was Jack Northrop. But you couldn't be over here at sundown because Hawthorne, where the Beach Boys are from, Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys just died a couple months ago, a man who was known for molesting children. But that's another story. Look, the Beach Boys historic landmark, this is where the Beach Boys' house was. This is where the Beach Boys grew up. They knocked their house down because of the 105 freeway. But if you're into white boy music and the Laurel Canyon scene, this is where the Beach Boys were raised. And the Laurel Canyon scene, the murder scene in Laurel Canyon, that's a whole nother story. We're about to start a series on Patreon, the Laurel Canyon murder scene up here. Laurel Canyon, which is far, 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 far more violent during the 1960s. There were more murders here within Laurel Canyon and the music industry within Laurel Canyon than there was post-Watts riots, South Central LA. That's a fact. One person was murdered in South Central LA the 3 years after the Watts riots. And there were well over dozens of murders connected to the music scene in Laurel Canyon. But that's going to be a series that we're going to do over on Patreon. So I'm giving you guys a history of LA and the gangs in LA and how gang life is a part of life in California. So black people and black gangs were just the latest to the party. And when black gangs were initially a thing in the 50s and the 60s, they were built out of protection from all of the other gangs, including the LAPD and the LA County Sheriff, that black people were around. And to this day, you still have gangs of all races, the Latino gangs, the Asian gangs. These gangs still exist. The difference is the Asian gangs, they are in control of the fentanyl. There is the real fentanyl from China that these Chinese gangs that are now up in Arcadia and Monrovia, a lot of Chinese gang activities busting out over here now, up in this area. There's the Chinese fentanyl, and then there's the Mexican fentanyl. And there's all kind of street wars over whose fentanyl is going to get on the streets. Because let me tell you something else China has and Japan has. The port. People don't talk about how the port of LA and the port of Long Beach, there's more money coming through this port than any of you crusty ass niggas from whatever crusty ass city you from that talk shit about LA. This for all you niggas that be talking shit about LA but don't know shit about LA. Everybody else, I love you. But if you talk shit about LA, this for your crusty ass. It's more shit coming through this port than your whole fucking state can handle. Okay? There's more money coming through this port than than the economy of your state, including everything your state does. Why am I saying that? It's the Chinese that control the ships in the port. And the Chinese were just hit with a major lawsuit because what they was doing was they got found with this whole area down here is nothing but cargo. Nothing but cargo. The Chinese and the Russians. Oh, I didn't even mention the Russian gangs in LA, did I? Hold on, I digress. Because the Russian gangs got a lot to do with what's going on down there. Up here in Glendale, the city of Glendale, these are your Armenian gangs. And the Armenian gangs control things coming through the port. A lot of your knockoff jeans, your knockoff shoes. Your Armenian gangs are in control of a lot. Whatever the Chinese don't control when it comes to knockoffs, the Armenians do. The Chinese control most of the knockoff market, but the Armenians and the Russians control the rest. And you know where your Russian gangsters are? The Crenshaw district. The Crenshaw district is owned by Russians. And a lot of these Russians are tied to criminal activity. That's why when black people raised $113 million to buy this mall, black folks raised $113 million. My great granduncle fucking worked on this mall, and a black man designed this. By the way, these two stores were both designed by a black man, and my great granduncle worked on it. But when we raised $113 million, they said no and sold this shit to some Russians for $108 million. Because those are the real gangsters, the ones that control these plots of land. When we're dealing with Lamert Park, all this shit is owned by Russians. And it's not because black people don't have the money. Black people raise the money to buy all this shit. in the last 10 years. Everything you see that went up for sale, there were black people that had the money. But the real gangsters said no and sold it back to other Russians. And both the Armenian gangs, the Russian gangs, the Asian gangs, they all got ties to the Port of Los Angeles. And it is at the Port of Los Angeles that all of the criminal activity, the drugs, the knockoffs, the people who are the real gangsters control what moves where. And black gangs have no control over none of this shit. None of it. The Mexicans don't control the port either, but they don't need to control the port because Mexico's right here. The Mexicans control the tunnels. And you best believe there are hundreds of tunnels coming in and out. So the Mexican gangs, they don't need to control the port or the airport. They have a whole goddamn country that's 2.5 hours away. So the Mexicans don't control the port, but they have a country that's right there. Something that black people don't have access to. The Russian gangs, the Asian gangs, the Hells Angels, they all have access to this port. And they get their drugs, their paraphernalia, with their illegal activities through this. There was just a major shakedown. Let me see if I can find that story. Let me see if I can find that story. With China. Let me see if I can find that story. Here it is. This is just earlier this year. There's a whole smuggling scheme of illegal products coming in to where they were like these fake medallions from China. And they've been bringing in, they said over 200 million, that means $1 billion in product. Listen to this. Black gangs ain't got none of this.
In an alleged
9 people have been indicted for their alleged roles in a big smuggling scheme. Investigators say they brought more than $200 million worth of illegal goods from China to the United States using ports of LA and Long Beach. Eyewitness News reporter David Gonzalez has a closer look.
On Monday, the Department of Justice announced 9 people, including 5 Chinese nationals, were indicted for their parts in an alleged smuggling scheme that brought in more than $200 million in illegal goods from China into the United States using the Los Angeles Long Beach Seaport complex.
These seizures include everything from controlled substances, chemical precursors, weapons parts, fake postage stamps, counterfeit U.S. coins and consumer products, drug paraphernalia, and over 220 tons of prohibited plant and animal products.
In 2023, Customs and Border Protection noticed the high security seal of a shipment container had been tampered with.
The vigilance of this agriculture specialist unveiled an intricate network of logistics companies, brokers, freight forwarders, and truckers who are working in concert to circumvent CBP inspection.
Prosecutors say the defendants would allegedly take sealed containers flagged for additional inspection to warehouses off-site. The security seals were broken and the contraband was removed. The containers would then be reloaded with domestic goods, sealed with a fake duplicate seal bearing the original serial numbers, and sent to Customs for inspection.
At the moment, there's no policy in place that requires the container to be brought to CBP for a secondary inspection within the certain time frame.
The lapse between it leaving and arriving at the secondary inspection, that time frame that you're referring to, allowed them certainly to unload the cargo, and is something that CBP is going to have to.
Your black gangster ass ain't got a whole goddamn country and network doing no shit like that. And it's the street. It's those people's street folks that are facilitating these things, these happenings. And when things don't go that way, they deal with the same consequences all gangs deal with. Violence. Let me see. And not only do they have that, they have networks within the police department that helps. Let me give you an example. This came to my head. Tell me about Sheriff Tanaka and his criminal activity and his brother that was the mayor of Gardena, Tanaka. Because the undersheriff, Sheriff Tanaka, here in California, Paul Tanaka, he actually got put in jail. He was facilitating a lot of this illegal stuff. And his brother was the mayor of Gardena. But this dude was sentenced to jail for obstruction. This dirty son of a bitch, Paul Tanaka, who was the undersheriff, second in command of the LA Sheriff Department. And he was facilitating a lot of this gangster shit. You tell me the black gang that got that kind of level of access. So if we're going to talk about gangs, nigga, let's talk about gangs. They always want to shit on the black ones. They always want to put us as the face of this shit. We ain't the face of none of that. Black gangs are a resistance to a gangster-ass country, a gangster-ass city. I want to play a little bit of this for you. This is I'm not gonna play the whole interview, but I want you to play. I'm gonna speed it up. I'm gonna play a couple minutes of this interview from an Asian gang member talking about the gang life as an Asian and the childhood trauma and family violence that led into that lifestyle.
Drunk, alcoholic. My mom was Taoist Buddhist, so my childhood was kind of like miserable, filled with distress. My father was a drunk, alcoholic. My mom was Taoist Buddhist, so it was kind of ran like a dictatorship. And we were really young, and my dad would actually beat us, me and my brother and my mom. I sent my mom to the ICU a lot of times, a bunch of times. So it was very, very chaotic as a kid. And I think grew up around that type of environment where there was gangs, drugs, violence. We were low income, not stereotypical Asian, but we didn't really have much money. We grew up around a lot of Hispanics. There was a lot of culture shock as well. Our parents are immigrants, so they didn't really, know how to fit in. So we kind of had to learn everything from the streets. When I was young, I had a very peculiar mindset. I trusted in myself a lot because I felt like I couldn't trust my parents. One time, I was 10 years old and I got jumped for the first time. Had my backpack stolen, had my shoes taken. I went home and my father asked me, "Where's your backpack? Where's your stuff?" And I said, I got jumped by 4 Hispanics, and he didn't believe me. He thought that I threw away my backpack. He thought that I wasn't trying to do good in school. So he beat me after that. So yeah, I kind of went through a lot with the beatings and a lot of trauma. And so at the age—
That part right there, I want to play that part for a reason. Because I ain't talking about these fake bangers. A lot of your people who are really in that lifestyle, it's not that they were running to that lifestyle. Oftentimes they were running away from some bullshit at home and running towards wherever the love was. A lot of your quote unquote real ones, the ones that aren't out here faking it and bullshitting, this is why I've always had compassion for those in gangs too. Even though I stay the fuck away and I do not go to gang funerals, I still have a certain level of compassion for the real ones. Not these fake ass niggas that grew up in good circumstances that just want to be tough. Not these niggas like Charleston White who heard a goddamn song, but you have middle class parents and you want to become gangster. I ain't got no tolerance for you kind of motherfuckers. But you see this Asian man is driven to gangs for the same reason why Latinos, blacks, whites, and a lot of people are driven towards gangs. And that's neglect at home. the environment of Southern California that drives people to gangs too often, not all the time, but too often, is neglect in the home environment. It's not what good is having a father in the home if the daddy ain't shit. You dig what I'm saying? I got two cousins that was put on, I'm not gonna say which gangs, but I got a couple cousins that was put on by their mama. I got two cousins that was put on by their mama. Okay? So right there, that's one in this environment. Like different cities got different ways of dealing with stuff, but in this environment, there's a place, no matter what race you are, a community to go to if you're neglected, whether you're white, Asian, black, Hispanic. So let's go.
Age of 12 years old, I actually joined a gang. I joined the Watchings, the Chinese triad type of gang out in that area, very big gang.
I just talked about them, didn't I? The Watchings. The Watchings.
So these are Asian gangs?
Yes, a lot of Asian gangs out there. We're very incognito, hush-hush, tight-lipped, but they do exist. And so I joined.
I want to go back and play that part again.
A very big gang.
So these are Asian gangs?
Yes. So at the age of 12 years old, I actually joined a gang. I joined the Watchings, the Chinese triad type of gang out in that area, very big gang.
So these are Asian gangs?
Yes, a lot of Asian gangs out there. We're very incognito, hush-hush, tight-lipped, but they do exist. And so I joined that at 12 years old. And a lot of people ask me, why would...
There are a lot of Asian gangs. He said in the San Fernando Valley. So when if he said San Fernando Valley, that's out here. That's out here. He said lots of Asian gangs and Latino gangs out here. And then you got that one little black gang that Whack 100 say he's from in Pacoima right here. But it's Asians and Latinos out there in gangs. And they're also here over in the San Gabriel Valley. This is San Gabriel Valley. Like you said, lots of gangs. They just keep quiet. The problem with black folks is you niggas talk too goddamn much. I'm a gangster. I'm a thug. I'm a thug. I'm a gangster. And they end up with some goddamn YSL charges, you stupid motherfuckers. Going on Vlad TV and Adam 22. You heard what that man just said? It's lots of us. He basically just said, we just ain't going on Adam 22 like you dumb motherfuckers are.
Would you join that? Why would you join a gang, at the age of 12? And a lot of people would say it's probably due to, their broken home or broken family or drugs or violence, just the environment.
So you see that. Lots and lots and lots of Asian gangs in this city. They're just not on Vlad TV talking about it. That's the difference. Oh, let me go back to the map. Because they're not just up here. It's a lot of Vietnamese gangs too. Down here in Carson, you got your Samoan gangs and your Tongans. The Samoans and Tongans go at it right here, right down here. Carson is a unique city. Because Carson is the only city that you're going to find the black people live in the nice houses and the Mexicans and the Samoans live in the hood. Carson funny like that. Like if it looked dirty and dusty, that's where like the Samoans and the Tongans and the Mexicans live and the Asians down in Carson. And these mobile home parks, Carson Park, that's where they are. They in the dusty areas. The black folks in Carson actually live in the best areas. The downside, before you Carson niggas go popping your collar, the downside is all this shit. You see all this oil? There's a lot of oil. The cancer rates down here are fucking crazy. Out of this world, the cancer rates are in Carson. Because you got a whole bunch of people living. There used to be Shell Oil Company used to own all this shit. And the Shell Oil Company, when they sealed the ground, they built these houses on oil, on what used to be oil land. So what happens is every now and again you'll see oil coming up above the streets and people dying of cancer like a motherfucker down here. But this is a black neighborhood in Carson. These are all black folks. Like Carson is like all the nice houses in Carson are black. And all of the hood shit is like Samoan and Asian and Latino. All the trailer parks, all the small houses, that's them. But gangs like a motherfucker. Same thing down here in Long Beach. Long Beach, Asian gangs all through this motherfucker. All through Long Beach, Asian gangs. The Vietnamese gangs are now coming up big out here in Fountain Valley. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Fountain Valley was lily white 20 years ago. This was lily white. 2005, 2010, lily white. Now, you want some this is where the Filipino gangs are. The Filipino gangs, they all coming up through here. This is like Filipino, Asian gang central all up and down here. All up in that motherfucker. They just not on Vlad TV. And you still got the white gangs all up in Seal Beach. You still got white gangs here in Seal Beach. White surfer gangs. They call them surfer gangs. They're just thugs. They're just thugs. But Seal Beach still has white gangs all up in here. LA is gangland. And no matter what your race is, there's a gang that's waiting for you to join. This is a gangster city. And when it comes to market share and control, the black gangs have the least. We don't have a country that's right down the street like the Mexican gangs got. And the Mexican gangs also take orders from the Hells Angels. And when you're taking orders from the Hells Angels, you're basically taking orders from the police. Because the Hells Angels, and they've said that shit a long time ago, white supremacist groups, see, Trump took it down. But when they're talking about the biggest threats to national security, before they told you white supremacist groups have infiltrated every level of the law, from the police to the judicial system. And a lot of those police and judicial system were childhood and young adults Hells Angels. The black folks don't have that down here. We don't have access to the port to where people from our country own ships. We don't own none of those goddamn ships at the port. We can't do what the Asian gangs can do, what the Russian gangs can do. The Russians own ships. Okay? They own ships. They own cargo containers. They can get whatever product they need to get into this country. You know what the black people get? The brunt of all the blame for everything going wrong. Because black people don't own and control none of this shit. We can't get nothing into this country without the help of Russian gangs, Japanese gangs, Chinese gangs, white gangs, Latino gangs. There's nothing that can come into this country because we don't own not one single ship, not one single airplane at the airport. Gangster shit starts with control of the underground economy. That's why gangs exist. Whether it be sex trafficking, human trafficking, weapons trafficking, drug trafficking, back in the days of prohibition, or they want to ship a whole bunch of Chinese people over here so they can work at rub and tug facilities. We own none of that. The black gangs have the least amount of power here in this city. The gangster thing is not our thing. We are a communal people of love, of understanding, of kindness, and of innovation. That's who we really are. We do control that. We do control creativity. We control style. We control thought. We control how people speak. It's a lot we do control. But drugs, guns, and illegal shit ain't one of them. We don't control the stuff that the so-called gangsters like to do. The reason why we had to get driven into that gangster lifestyle was because all of these jobs that our families moved out here from the South from, all these jobs up in this area, all up and down Bandini, all these jobs that we used to have, they started exporting these jobs and shipping them overseas to China. And whatever they didn't ship over, they brought in Mexicans to take. And so as we started to lose our jobs and lose our economic foothold, the drug game, and mind you, crack, allegedly, from what we've all heard before, was invented at UCLA. You want to know where crack comes from? Crack comes from the laboratories of UCLA, right here in Homey Hills. Right here is the home of crack. I used to know this campus at the back of my hand. So before we talk about crackheads, understand, this is where, let me see, where's that hall where Bunchy Carter was murdered? Here's Royce Hall. When it comes to black folks, our gangsters were rolling at UCLA. And it was here at Royce Hall where Bunchy Carter was murdered, ending the LA chapter of the Black Panthers, right here at Royce Hall. Bunchy Carter was murdered here because remember, when it comes to LA gangs, Bunchy Carter and those guys, they left the streets and went to the universities. This is what LA gangs were doing in the 60s. After the LA riots, this is where LA gangs went. UCLA. And it was here on the steps of Royce Hall where Bunchy Carter was murdered. And it was just a couple years later that y'all brought in crack. At the time, y'all murdered Bunchy Carter. Y'all were developing a substance known as crack cocaine, allegedly, I heard, quote unquote, at UCLA. So if you want to talk about gangsters, add UCLA to it. And not too far from UCLA was the home of sex trafficking, the Playboy Mansion. Charing Cross Road. Big ass leaves. They put these big ass gate walls up now because they're so goddamn guilty. But at the end of Charing Cross Road used to be a place called the Playboy Mansion. And this here, and mind you, talking about those secret tunnels at Diddy's house? This is Diddy's house right here. Over here on Mapleton, you had the Playboy Mansion used to be right there. And Diddy's house is right here. With tunnels all through here. Transporting, allegedly, I heard, it's been suspected, underage children. And then right here at the time was the most expensive real estate at the time, the Spelling Estate, created by Tori Spelling's father from 90210, Aaron Spelling, father of a lot of those TV shows back in the 60s and 70s. But yeah, UCLA is right there where the home of sex trafficking was. And this is all near, this is Benedict Canyon, where Sharon Tate on Cielo Drive. Cielo Drive, there were more murders here on Cielo Drive in the 1960s than there was in Watts, California for 3 years. Cielo Drive is very notorious here in Benedict Canyon. And then Laurel Canyon. And in Laurel Canyon, there was a let me see, where's Laurel Canyon at? I'm drawing a blank. That's Coldwater. Laurel is east of Coldwater Canyon. Oh yeah, here we go. Laurel is over here by the Comedy Store. Where the Laugh Factory at? That's how I know where the Laurel, that's Comedy Store. Where's the Laugh Factory? I know where the Laurel Canyon is based on the Laugh Factory. I'm drawing a blank. Where the fuck is the Laugh Factory? Here we go, Laugh Factory. Laurel Canyon, here we go. The Houdini Estate. 4 or 5 different murders happened here. With people getting bludgeoned to death. Same thing with Lookout Mountain. All those Charles, if you ever heard of Charles Manson? Yeah, all that shit was going on right up in here. All that. There was a secret movie studio up here. So many murders connected to people like Dennis Hopper, connected to people like Janis Joplin, and connected to people like former Governor Jerry Brown, Ronald Reagan. All happened all up in this little area called Laurel Canyon. Lookout Mountain Road. Look up the 4 on the floor murders. Wonderland. Look up the 4 on the floor murders. Look up the 4 on the floor murders. Matter of fact, I'll do it for you. All up there in Laurel Canyon. Right after I was born, too. You want to talk about some gangster shit in L.A.? Look no further than Laurel Canyon. The Greystone Mansion, the murder that happened here. From the Doheny family. Doheny Boulevard. This is where crack was created, y'all. Right here. This is where they ended the Black Panthers and created crack. So if we're going to be talking about gangster shit in LA, let's talk about gangster shit. Don't just leave it on the black people. This is a gangster ass city. It's a gangster ass environment. And you got the black folks just trying to get in where they fit in. I don't fault gang members for being gang members. Only thing I ask is that we go back, our gang members, go back to your original purpose, and that's defending the people. You corny as fuck if you're only robbing black people. If you're only gangster towards black people. You're a fucking cornball. Let's get back to our original intent, and that's to defend us. Because y'all know how it is. Y'all can say Mexicans, we cool all you want. But if you work your construction job, all my gangster niggas that work in construction, you know what it is at work. I don't need to say anything. You know what it is at work, nigga. Go to blisscapsules.com. Type in the product code DeJuan B. Buy one, get one free. I'm going to have my, I'm getting my report writing system built into my website. So if you want to report, I still have discounts on reports now, but I'm about to update my report writing system. So if you want to report for a discount, email me right now, info@DeJuanB.com. Also go to blisscapsules.com. And if you type in the promo code DeJuanB, you can buy two and get one for free. You type in that. Well, once you do it, once you go to process your shit, you see it to be buy one, get one free with the product code DeJuanB, all right? But yeah, don't get caught up in the hype. LA niggas are not coons. It's you niggas who ain't from LA that are. We ain't freaks. We ain't crazy. It's y'all fucking weirdos that move here and think now that you're not at home anymore, you can just diddy your way on through life. That's y'all niggas. Gangsters, black gangs do not represent LA. They don't represent all black folks in LA. They are a subsection of Black America in LA, and they have their right and they have their place, but they don't represent us all. I stand against that. Y'all saw on this very show when and I love Lord Jamar, but when he talked about the game being more LA than Kendrick, y'all saw I did a show saying hell no. The game is goofy. That nigga lost his house because he couldn't keep his composure. That nigga goofy. We don't know. That was them 90s niggas. I'm tough. Yeah. That's them 2000s niggas, man. We tired of them niggas. We are. We are. Y'all been talking way too long for the city and ain't gave us nothing in return for it but a bad reputation. And squares like me gotta eat the brunt of that reputation, even though I ain't got shit to do with nothing y'all do. Stop it. LA, no. For those of you on the internet, the gang section of LA does not speak for LA. No, they don't. They don't. The gang section of LA speaks for gangs. They speak for themselves. They speak for their hood. They speak for their interactions. But no, they do not speak for LA. And they definitely don't speak for Black LA. Because the gangs is just niggas we have to tolerate. if I'm gonna keep it 100. Just a bunch of niggas the rest of us have to tolerate to get to school, to get to work. They don't speak for us. You can tell me if you can tell me the Mason-Dixon line between all the different sets, but you can't tell me your city councilman, you don't speak for us. If you can tell me which hat to wear in what part of town, but you can't tell me what your local what the mayor's doing if you're in a small municipal city like Inglewood or Gardena or Hawthorne, if you're in an unincorporated area like Century, if you can't tell me what's going on with the politics of your side of town, you don't speak for us. And when it comes to gangs fighting each other, for the rest of y'all to think y'all gonna talk shit about LA, no, you're not gonna talk shit about LA. Why? Because ain't nobody paying attention to your corny ass city. Y'all got just as many hoe ass niggas in your city too. Y'all got just as many real gangsters. Y'all got just as many hoe ass niggas who are fake banging in your city too. It's just that nobody gives a fuck about your city. They're paying attention to mine. Okay, let's make that very clear. And here in LA, it's no different than anywhere else in the country. Blacks fight blacks, Mexicans fight Mexicans, whites fight whites, and every now and again, every so often, there's overlap. But whether you're in LA, Tennessee, Chicago, black people fight black people, Mexicans fight Mexicans, white people fight white people. You fight who you're in proximity of. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, they just fight each other. Well, they fight who they're near. And Mexicans and blacks in LA, even when we're near each other, we live in two totally separate worlds. When black folks walk past each other, what's up, black man? We acknowledge, we nod and say, what's up? When we walk past Mexicans, we keep walking. So the last thing I'm going to stand for is niggas who ain't coming to LA, who ain't from here, coming to LA saying, man, LA niggas are whack. No, nigga, you whack. That's why you left your city and came here. Because for whatever reason, you couldn't make it to the level you thought you could make it there. That's why you're here. Shut up. And if you didn't move to LA, but you all up in LA business and nobody's up in your city's business, it's because you're whack and your city's whack. Nobody gives a fuck about what's going on in Pittsburgh, okay? Nobody gives a fuck about what's going on in Pine Bluff. So shut the fuck up and leave us alone talking that shit. Y'all here, y'all watch Adam 22, y'all watch Vlad because you care about what goes on here. Don't get mad at us, Charleston White. Just look in the mirror and see a cornball. If you're over here mad at us, LA folks, we thought they was gangsters, so we wanted to be like them. Anytime you try to be like somebody else, you're a fucking cornball. And you shouldn't say that as an adult. You should just take that on the chin. Yep, we wanted to be like LA gangsters, but that's the problem. We too busy dick riding other people instead of being like ourselves. Because them Oakland niggas for sure, them Oakland and San Francisco niggas for sure said, nigga, what? You better get your crip ass out of my motherfucking face. And they still say blood up in Oakland. And they don't mean blood the way we mean blood. So if you thought you was going to come up in this chat room or watch this show and hear me talk about what's going on in LA street life, and you thought you was going to dump on LA, no, you a cornball too. You just as corny as the gangster niggas. But the same way the vice lords and the gangs don't speak for the people of the black folks of Chicago, the same way the gangsters, the fake Crips, don't speak for the people in Fort Worth and Dallas, the same way the fake Bloods don't speak for those in New York. No, y'all don't speak for Black America. You guys are the ones that capitulated to the bullshit. Y'all capitulated. Y'all did exactly what the system wanted y'all to do. That's okay. That's okay. You messed up. You did what the system funneled you into doing. You're a victim of social engineering. But you don't speak for us. All right? I've been here. What's up, Sage? What's up, chat room? Thank y'all for joining. I've been here for 2 hours, talking 2 hours straight. I hope you guys enjoyed your history lesson and your social context lesson. I speak from a point of view that you guys can look up what I'm telling. Everything that I say, you guys can go back, watch this video again, and look up everything that I said. Hey, Rocky, you good? You good, Rocky? Rocky just woke up. Rocky been asleep this whole time I've been talking. Rocky been knocked out. Now he over here going, did you eat something off the ground, little nigga? But we might do some music tonight. I'm not sure yet. But I appreciate y'all. Well, watch the playback for sure. Felix Speaks. Bismarck T. I know you have them niggas in the chat room laughing. Sage. Sinister. D. Scott. If I didn't get to you, my bad. I don't know if Shayla's still in here. Rashawn. Ben Frank. Marquis. Appreciate y'all for joining. All right? Make sure y'all pass this around and put them niggas in check that's talking all kind of shit about my city. Fuck y'all. All right? Y'all have a good one. We out.